Um, well, welcome everyone. Um, I first met Mike Batman Cohen, which I think that's his real name, um, at the MPA conference I went to last year. As a MPA is a bit like team, but it's global. It's small, medium-sized recruitment companies who share ideas, jobs, and challenges, and there's a lot of synergy between the two organizations, and I'm trying to nurture that significantly. Mike blew me away with his presentation, and I was talking to the CEO of MPA a few months back, and I said I've got to get Mike on a call, and he was just about to become a dad, so things were we put this off for a little while, but his gorgeous baby is sleeping 11 hours a night, and he looks as fresh as a daisy despite all that beating the bagpipes and the joker and all of that stuff too. So, Mike, I'm going to hand you over. Many of you saw Samantha's video talking about the work that she's done with Mike as well, and that's significantly enhanced her resourcing globally as well. So you might want to chip in a bit later, Sam, with a couple of examples of that. But Mike, I'm going to hand over to you to say hello, introduce yourself. I'm going to suggest we go for keep the videos on then, but just because we're coughers and sneezers, just mute yourself unless you want to engage, and we'll go to speaker view. Thank you.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Yeah, if you could turn your cameras on, it'd be cool. I'm over here in the US at 8 a.m. all by myself, so it'd be cool if I could see your faces. It really is just my gauge to see if I'm being funny or if I need to step it up or not. I'm going to share my screen, get things rocking and rolling. Everybody see that? Yeah, see, part of why I like the video. I can see thumbs up. Cool. So, hey, I've got the chat open on another screen. So if you see I'm looking left and right, that's not my ADHD. I'm looking at chat. Y'all can put messages in there, or you can just unmute yourself and we can talk that way. Great. Here we go. So today we're going to talk about sourcing strategies. It's kind of a lot. If I'm done by 3 p.m. your time, it would be like a miracle. So apologies in advance that I run late. So that's me. I'm a sourcing subject matter expert. There's no way to qualify who the best sourcer in the world is, but I will tell you I'm one of the most technically advanced sourcers in the world. And I love that. I pride myself on that, and I try to stay ahead of the curve. I am a conference speaker. I usually speak at 10 to 12 conferences a year. I absolutely love training. I love giving back to the community. Also, I like being the center of attention, which is why I'm an indoor cycling instructor. I don't actually love cycling. I've taken 2 classes that I haven't taught my entire life, but I do like being the center of attention. I like exercise, and I like electronic music, so that lined up really well. I do like pushing limits, both personally and professionally. So that's me finishing the New York Marathon and me finishing a half Ironman. As Sam can attest, if you've ever seen me in real life, God did not make me as a runner. You would go, huh, good for you. So I do like pushing myself, see what I can do. Those of you who just chuckled, shame on you. Okay, I do like memes and GIFs. If you find these to be unprofessional, the red button on the bottom right is to leave the room. These are my dogs. That is Honey and Blue. I love them more than like 99.9% of living things on this earth. This is the 0.1%. That's my wife, who Sam's also met. She is literally my rock. Like, she's the only reason I'm here today. I mean that in full sincerity. I also just had a baby 4 months ago. I need to update my bio slide with the picture of her. She is objectively one of the cutest babies I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, sometimes I go by Batman. There's a story behind that. So we'll deal with the elephant in the room before anybody puts it in the chat and asks, which is, why in the world do you go by Batman? Which is a great question. So this is about 9 years ago. I was working in New York City. This was before I started my own company, and I wanted to start branding myself a little bit. And I'm thinking, what do I do with the name Mike Cohen? I'm like, mom and dad really dropped the ball in creativity here. It's like the most common white boy name, followed by the most common Jewish name. And I'm not even Jewish, so everything was bad. Right around that time, Trump started running for president. The first time, I can't even believe I have to say that. And he had a lawyer who was objectively less than awesome. And his name was Michael Cohen, also lived in New York City. And I realized branding was basically dead for my name. And so I decided I wanted to try going with the moniker Batman because I absolutely loved him as a character. I started reading his comics when I was 19 years old, and the dichotomy between him and other superheroes is great. Also, he was the world's greatest detective. That's how he got his start. And I kind of feel like what I do is a little bit of detective work. So the short answer is I gave myself the nickname and it just stuck. It's been 9 years. I do respond to Mike. I do respond to Batman pretty openly. So you can call me whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. Housekeeping notes. First, please be mindful. I know y'all are British and this doesn't typically affect you as much, but in the US, it does. I swear. I'm going to do my best not to because we're recording, but like it's definitely going to happen. Yes, before you ask, you will get a copy of my slides. All you have to do is ask and I'll send them. I don't capitalize stuff in my slides. That's not an accident. I didn't just forget 100 times to do that. It's because I use Boolean and I want you to know when I capitalize something, it's intentional that I'm capitalizing it. I am snarky. That'll come out anytime I talk about the Blue Devil. LinkedIn. Please engage with me. That's why your videos are on or should be on. The 50% of you have your video on. You're doing a good job. If you have questions, put it in the chat or just unmute yourself and interrupt me. I'm from New York. You're never going to offend me. I speak quickly. I speak very quickly, if you can't tell. This turns some people off in Texas where I live now. But again, y'all are British. Y'all speak pretty quick too. And yes, I promise, I double promise you will get a copy of my slides. You don't need to ask. Someone's going to put it in the chat and we're all going to have a really good laugh about it. Cool. Here's the agenda for today. We're going to go over some tools and technology, stuff that'll just generally help you function a little bit more efficiently. We're going to go over what I call pre-search, which is what do you do before you actually start searching for candidates. We're going to talk about sourcing outside of LinkedIn because I hate them as an organization more than any company in the whole world, and implementation strategy. So how do we take this new sourcing strategy and implement it into our day-to-day to make sure that we're making the best use of our time? I'm going to breathe for like 5 seconds. Do you guys have any questions? All right, thank you. Let's go. All right, here we go. So tools and tech. Yeah, it's a real thing that just happened. So I'm going to go through some tools and tech for everybody. These are a bunch of extensions, mostly free or freemium. If you do not use these, use them, I guess, is going to be what I'm going to say here. So highlight this is probably one of the most useful tools out there. If you guys ever use Control F or Command F to find a word on a page, imagine doing that, but being able to search for like multiple words on a page and highlight them different colors. So instead of having to scroll down a profile or a resume, looking for like, oh, did they do this thing? Do they have this skill? It'll all highlight for you. If you don't see the colors you need, move on. They're not the right person. Text Blaze is a really cool snippet tool. I use it to format emails or form emails that I send really often, like introduction emails, scheduling emails, etc. It basically is a text expander, if you know what that is. If you don't, you can interrupt me and ask me. Web Chat GPT, super cool. It basically turns Chat GPT into the ability to search the internet, which if you use Chat GPT, you know it does not have the capability to do. If you don't use ChatGPT, you should start. One tab. I know most people in this industry are like me, where like it gets like to like 1 or 2 p.m. and they've got like 30 tabs open on that one Chrome tab, and you're like, well, shit. Now what do I do? Oh, there's one. Now what do I do? Right? Like, I can't close all these because I'm in the middle of my research. One tab takes all of them, minimizes it down, and boom, you can restore them at any time. You can share them at any time. Super cool. Instant Data Scraper is a data scraper. If you're unfamiliar with the hell I'm talking about, imagine going to a site where you look up like, hey, top medical device companies in Europe. And now you're on this page that has this like gigantic list of like companies and descriptions, and there's like 1,000 of them. Well, how the hell do you get those off the page? And if your answer is, well, I would just write this one down, and then I would write this one down, and then I would write this one down, just know by the fifth one I vomited and given up. Web Instant Data Scraper will scrape all that for you immediately off the page so you can use it. And then quickly, I can't talk about right now because we're recording, but in a world where we're not recording, I'll explain what this is. A friend of mine uses it, and he says it's really awesome for acquiring information from social media platforms. If you have more questions about that, you can ping me after. Paid platforms. These are what I use for sourcing. So I use Swordfish for emails and contact info. Seekout's my #1 sourcing tool. It is way better than LinkedIn Recruiter. I use Clay for spreadsheet automation. I'm a spreadsheet person. It's kind of my thing. Reclaim is my calendaring app. Sourcewhale is my email automation tool. And MailReach is my email warm-up tool. I'm happy to go further into any of those or show any of those if they're of interest, but people look like they're already zoned out on this, so I'm moving on. Let's talk about pre-search. So pre-search is basically the information that we gather before we actually do our sourcing. This is going to surprise some people, unfortunately, but like when I get a new rec in, I don't just start searching for people. I actually do a bunch of research. I probably do like an hour to an hour and a half of research for every role I work on to make sure I understand what to look for, what not to look for, what the relevant words are, relevant companies, titles, etc. And I use this sheet, which I will show you guys here. Cool. So this is what I call my pre-search sheet. If y'all want a copy of this, I mean, the link is literally on the page you were just looking at. But I literally put my intake form and answers over here. I make every client fill out an intake form for every role I work on. If you don't do this, I highly suggest it because they have to commit to something in writing. So that way, when it's a week later and you get the feedback that like, these candidates aren't the right fit, and you're like, oh, really? Well, let's go over this intake form one more time. And all of a sudden, you don't look like a shitty recruiter who doesn't know what they're doing. They look like a weird manager who changed their mind. And then I'm getting all of this data. So I'm literally looking up like competitors. I'm looking up other companies who do similar things, but not maybe competing. Same industry, similar skill sets, any direct competitors like that our client was losing people to. So like I want to look up where are the employees of this company leaving to go to and where are they coming from? Because I know those companies are going to be good to go into. I always look up what other companies are hiring for the same role. And then I want to know what are the benchmark companies that the hiring manager gives me. Like, hey, here are the companies I really want to see people out of. I always run a list for titles because we all think that the titles are going to be pretty clear, but they're not. My example of this, and I'll use this as an opportunity to hear from anybody, is like, do you guys have any examples of sales titles? Like, what would you look for if you were looking for salespeople? This is not a rhetorical question. This is me literally asking you guys. Somebody unmute, please. Not Samantha, because I know her already. Remute Samantha. Yeah, sorry. I love you.
Yeah, could do salespeople, business development, account management, sales executives, field sales. You know, I'm just doing a sales role at the moment. I came up with about 25 different job titles, I think. It's crazy.
Yeah, right. BDR, SDR, inside sales, outside sales, territory manager, area manager, division manager, national manager. Like there, and people don't think about that, right? They're like sales or business development. You're like, oh, cool. So you've just covered like 10% of the salespeople out there. Congratulations. So I always want to make sure like, hey, what are the titles that other companies are using? I always look up education of where people are coming out of. It's weird. Companies have affinities for this and don't even realize that they do, particularly in the US where we're like oddly snobby for no reason about where people went to school. Any personal intelligence I can gather, and then news. So I do this for every client. I highly suggest always find 2 to 3 news articles about your client. Guys, good news articles about your client. Don't talk about how they shit the bed in their last quarterly earnings call. But what I want to do is I want to use the news articles in my messaging. because here's the deal. This may, again, shock some of you, but like our clients don't give a shit what you think about the candidate. And our candidates don't give a shit what you think about the company. They want the data. And the best way to do that is to gather data from the candidate, deliver it to the company, right? So they're not going to hire somebody because we go, they're a great guy who knows all the things, right? They're going to be like, oh, this person sounds interesting because you acquired this data that makes them sound interesting. The same is true in reverse. Every recruiter is recruiting for a great company, like really good company, great to work with, right? A lot of them are even like families, right? But that's all bullshit. What isn't bullshit is a news article talking about how their co-founder, had this philanthropic event to give back to the community, or that they're listed as one of the top 20 medical device companies in the world who are looking to grow and expand. Using hard data points that aren't our fluffy opinions are going to really help sell the opportunity to clients or to candidates, excuse me. Cool. Ready? Let's go do this. I hate this. Sorry, I'm not a Microsoft person because they own LinkedIn, so I tend to use slides. So guys, this shit happens all the time, right? If you've ever just looked up like shitty recruiter online, or if you even just look up recruiters are in Google, it's going to fill in some really nasty stuff. All right. Like recruiters are trash and recruiters are shady. I think it's been that way for like a decade now. If you literally go to Google and type recruiters are and look at the autofill. So these are the people we're competing with, right? So first off, if anybody goes like recruiters are great, no, they're not. Recruiters are garbage, right? There's like 5% of us in the world who are like pretty solid at what we do. Most of those people are interested in growth and learning. So you'll see them on things like, I don't know, webinars and conference talks and stuff. So like, good for you guys for being 5%. We need to avoid this. And how do we avoid all of this? Really good research and preparation. So for pre-search, here are the 4 areas of intelligence that I like to look at. I've always heard like, oh, did you get the market intelligence? Oh, do you have the talent intelligence? And like, no one's ever really answered to me like what the hell that means, right? Like somebody at some point was like, oh, this is data and it's about the market. Let's call it market intelligence. Like somebody else randomly was looking at the same shit and was like, oh, let's call this talent intelligence. And like everybody was just kind of cool with that. So I decided, hey, I'm going to like come up with formal definitions for these things and like just rock with that because this is easier. I can explain it to people. And here's the 4 areas that I think we can focus on for our research, right? Y'all can read this. I don't have to read it out loud to you. If you're watching cat videos, I'd probably stop for a second and read this slide. Or don't, and just trust me, the 4 definitions are on here. Cool. So let's talk about market intelligence. What do I want to know? I want to know about the location of where these folks sit. I want to know about my competitors, who's out there. I want to know about the similar work organizations. And I want to know the perception of our client. I don't know if you guys have ever run into this, but I've had to drop a client because I did research on them and was aghast at what I was reading. I was like, you guys are paying great fees. I cannot represent you. Like I refuse. When I see sexual harassment stuff and drug use, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. So I want to do this research on the company ahead of time. So I'm looking up like, hey, based on the role you're looking for, where do these folks sit? Right? Because if you're looking and telling me like, oh, I want somebody to sit in like Texas, I'm like, well, cool. You know, most of the people for this sit in California or New York, right? If that's okay with you, that's fine. But I want to know where are these folks actually sitting that they want to hire so I can come to the table with good information and reasons why maybe relocation or remote work would be worth looking at. I also want to know things like compensation. There's a bunch of tools to do this online, but I want to know where's your comp at and what companies are people coming out of. So I ran an interesting search, which I'm going to share. This is all for a search I'm going to show you guys later. And they were like, hey, we don't really want anybody from like universities or banks. And like I ran the search and was like, really? Because like World Bank, Morgan Stanley, university. And they realized like, oh shit, actually a lot of the people we do want to hire do work at those companies. Cool. But I had to come to the table with the data first Can I share the details of the comp tool, please? Yeah, it's called Horsefly Analytics. Sorry, here. Horsefly Analytic. Geez, Mike, spell a thing. There we go. Yeah, put it in there. Thanks, Sam. Good question. Yeah, great. And I want to know similar working organizations. So I'll typically look up like other jobs that are similar and say like, hey, where are they coming out of? Like Dreamcore, Blackstone. Got it. Okay, interesting. Let me check those companies for people who are similar. Hey, client, is this a company you would be interested in pulling people out of? Like, oh shit, yeah, those people are great. Or like, no, do not pull from them. They're terrible, right? Whichever side it is. And then I always look up like, hey, tell me about the company, right? Tesla's got 3.4 stars. They're awful. Work there if you dare. I want to know ahead of time. Also, if they've got some bad reviews, I want to be really honest with them and be like, hey, how do we deal with this? I'm not the only person who's going to look this up, right? What do we say about X or Y and Z? And if they've dealt with it in some way, that's great. And you've got some leg to stand on. You've got a foundation. If they're like, oh, well, that's just not true. You're like, you're screwed. Stop working with them. That's bad. That's a bad sign. Competitor information. This is your talent intelligence piece. I want to know all about the people who I'm competing with for the same talent. Yeah, Horsefly is expensive. Yeah, sorry. It is really awesome though. Okay, if you're already talking to them, great. If you're not, I know the founders over there pretty well. They're good guys. So competitor information. I want to know like, hey, what are our competitors paying? Right? I have clients all the time who are like, I want somebody out of one of the big tech firms. Like, so like Apple, Netflix, Google, Amazon, et cetera. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, we can pay $140K a year. I'm like, they get more than that in equity every 6 months. It's like, you're out of your mind, right? What are the folks actually paying? I want to know also where their competitors sit. So that way I can say, hey, this is where the largest group of the people you're competing with are currently located. Here's why. And here may be a reason why we need to look in these areas, because that's where the people you want sit. I want to know educations, where are people coming out of who work at your competitors? It's just going to be a good sign for me to look like, hey, UC Berkeley, wow, they produce a lot of people in policy. Let me check those guys out. Let me just run a search for people who majored in policy at UC Berkeley, see what their titles are now. It's gathering as much information as I can. I always want to look at past organizations. Where did people come from before they joined this company? And then commonalities. So this is a really interesting one. You can do this on the Blue Devil. It's a lot easier on other tools like Seek Out or Hire Easy. But I want to know like, hey, what are the top groups people are in? Like ABC Grassroots, what's a great search? Let me look for people who are part of this group who maybe have some type of policy background because they care about this and they're actively involved. And here are some of the best buzzwords for skills for these folks. So I was like, oh, sustainability, that's probably a great thing to search for that I wouldn't have used just naturally because it wasn't in a JD, it wasn't in any of the intake conversations. Internal intelligence, really straightforward. Who are the top employees? Great, look at their backgrounds. Who are the people who did not make it for whatever reason? Why? Find the commonalities. Don't look for those people. And then what are the shared team characteristics? What are the things they do for fun? What are the groups that they're a part of? What are the skills that they list on their profiles and backgrounds? I'm gonna pause for a second and see if there's any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, or feedback. And I'm gonna drink some coffee. Go on. Sam, you can contribute now, sorry. You're not like permanently muted.
So I think what a lot of people might be thinking now, Mike, is this sounds like a lot. It sounds like a lot, and it is a lot when you first get started. But 12 months down the road, we've now got a library of these pre-searches, which actually then makes our sourcing really quick, especially if you're recruiting the same types of roles over and over again. And that's the bit that my team had to get past when they started this training. Was at the end of the training, everyone could see that it made sense, but they knew to get into that rhythm of it, it was a lot of work. But now it's paying dividends because now we just go into the library, pull out a pre-search sheet from mechanical engineering, medtech, and tweak it for that particular job and roll it out. So I don't know if the people on the call will resonate with that, but that's kind of where the journey that we went through as a business.
Yeah, we love you, Sam. Yeah, so that's a great point that you bring up. This is not gonna fix your shit tomorrow. I mean, it'll help a bunch, but it comes to a trade-off of your time, right? Y'all work in small businesses. A lot of you are business owners. The number one most valuable resource you have is your time. So, what would you rather spend your time doing? Research that's going to be reusable in the future, or looking at 500 profiles online? Right, because that's the other option. The other option is you run a shittier, broader search, and then you're just profile. No. In an ideal world, you're being smart about how you're using LinkedIn. So every profile you're looking at, you're tagging and adding to a project. So no, add tag, add to project, next profile, and like doing that 500 times. That for me is literally what hell would be like, with bees and clowns. So how do we do that? What we're doing is just taking the time that we would normally be spending just going through profile after profile or resume after resume, putting it up front or front loading it, and instead saying, hey, instead of looking at 500 profiles, I'm gonna look at like 80. But the 80 are going to be real solid. So my conversion rate from 80, maybe I reach out to 50 of the 80 I look at. And then my response rates, because they're so focused on what we're doing, are way higher. And I'm happy to share with you guys. I'll pull it up so you guys can see it afterwards, what I'm talking about. I'm reaching out on average of a group of like 50 to 200 candidates total for a role ever. And my response rates are in the mid to upper 30%. For candidate responses. So if you're more focused on the people you reach out to, you will get a higher response rate. All right. Sorry, any other questions? Dope. Cool. So sourcing outside of LinkedIn. So guys, we're going to do this together. If you're not alone, you can just whisper this out loud. If you're alone, please say this out loud with me, right? This is boo, right? We can all say this, boo. No one's moving their fucking lips. Boo. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is Bruce Lee. Yeah, and this is the letter N. Ready? Boolean. There it is. No one's saying bullion. No one's saying Bolean. Boolean. So I don't have a brain aneurysm halfway through this presentation. So Boolean. So Boolean, Bullion, Bolean. It's Boolean. It's named after a guy named George Boole. That is of zero relevance to you, but just so you know. I'm not going to take any time on this because a Boolean training is going to take like an hour in and of itself. I wanted to include this so when you get the slides, you guys have this data that you can work off of yourself. These are all your Boolean search strings and commands. I have a spreadsheet that you can click on that'll show you all of them and give you examples. Here's kind of what they look like. Again, not spending time on this, sorry. And then we've got X-ray sourcing. This is how you actually can search through websites for talent without having to go to the website, i.e. LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And if you're like, well, how the hell do I do that? Don't worry about it. I've got a whole slide for you. You want to look through LinkedIn for talent? Here's the exact string that you use. You just change the little purple words with the words you want them to be. Same thing with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or GitHub. So if y'all are jotting this down like crazy right now, I promise you're going to get a copy of my slides. Like double promise, like I promised earlier. So I tried to make this really easy. Some people love Boolean, in which case, cool, connect with me. I will gladly share some resources so you can get even better at it. Some people are like, that's stupid. That's word math and I hate it. That's fine. Here, copy and paste this string. Fill your own stuff in, you're off to the races. Okay? Questions on this before we keep going? Because I'm literally flying through this. No, that sounds great. All right, cool. All right, implementation strategy. We're talking about candidate intelligence. So this part is going to be the meat and potatoes here. We've done all of this research, right? We've done like an hour and a half, 2 hours of research. We know all the titles we're looking for. We know the buzzwords and how they appear in people's profiles. We know the companies that we're looking through. So what do we do now? Now we've got the data. How do we implement that in our search strategy? Well, first I'm going to encourage everybody, can we stop thinking of this as a funnel? people are like, oh, we need more candidates in our funnel. Okay, so I know all of y'all are respectable adults who have never ever funneled anything before, but I'm sure we know what it is at least. Here's the thing, guys. When you pour 2 beers in the top of a funnel, do you know how much comes out the bottom of the funnel? 2 beers. If you're telling me you want to talk to all 100 candidates that you reach out to and that you're going to place all 100 candidates that you speak to, I'm going to be like, A, bullshit. B, if it's not, you should be leading this webinar, certainly not me. So like, it's not really a funnel because whatever you put in the top comes out the bottom, right? In sales, that's dope. In recruiting, that's a colossal waste of time. It's more like a sieve, right? Where you put stuff in the top and there's maybe like some shit up there and you got to like shake all of it out and then like shit kind of falls through and then you're like, oh, cool. Like less stuff and then less stuff. And then boom, you're left with ideally gold at the end. That's also how we want to focus on our sourcing. So when I think of like a sieve versus a funnel, the 2 ways I think about this are top down or bottom up. So I created this whole elaborate analogy that I removed from this presentation because I realized it was just my ADD brain going wild while making it, where I talked about like finding gold and like the comparison point. Like if I said like, hey, Richard, I want you, yeah, I'm looking at you. I want you to go find, I want you to go find gold, right? You're not going to walk out back and just start digging in your backyard and be like, well, hope there's gold in here, right? You're going to be like, okay, well, where the hell have other people found gold? Okay, great. Well, let me like narrow it into some of those areas and then find out in those areas, like where the gold's sitting and like, how do I uncover the gold? And like realizing like the Earth's a pretty big place. You can't just like put a shovel down and find gold. So what you want to do is try to get as focused as you possibly can, and then maybe expand out as you need to find more. The methodology in sourcing are referred to as either top down or bottom up. Unfortunately, a lot of people I find are wasting time in doing this. So I'll ask pretty openly. There's not like a right or a wrong way to do this. How many of y'all think you're more like top down sourcing? You're running like a really wide search to see what's out there in total and kind of narrowing it down as you go. Cool. How many of y'all are bottom up sourcers? Sam, you better raise your hand right now. Yeah. I was like, I know y'all are. Okay, so here's the thing. Top down is, it can be, sorry, because it's not the wrong way to do it. It can be a waste of time. And you wind up guessing on a lot of things. So ready? You're looking for I'll use software engineering if anybody does tech, right? You're looking for a Java developer in London. And you know, they've got some of their pluses and stuff, but you're like, hey, let me start with Java developer. Boom. Okay. And then you add in a skill or you add in 2 skills. How do you know what skill you're even adding in first? Why that skill? What skill do you add next? Why that skill? Why that combination of skills even? Why are you narrowing it down the way that you're narrowing it down? And I find that more often than not, you're spending a ton of time looking at shit profiles to try and find like the creme de la creme versus the methodology that I live by and I source by and I train to is start with as narrow a focus as you can. If you run your first search and it's so specific that you get 0 results, that's awesome. That's a great start. And I'm going to talk to you about kind of what that looks like and how to do that. And I'm going to do it live so that we can actually see like, hey, here's how this is done. Here's what it looks like. And I'm giving you a real world example with screenshots. And I'm going to take you live to the work that I did on this. This isn't me like preaching random bullshit. This is actually what I do. So what do I want to find? I want to find bottlenecks. That's ultimately it. When you look for a Java developer in London, you're going to find like what, 40,000 people, 50,000 people, something obscene. Okay, great. That's not as helpful as looking for a Java developer who works with Spring and Boot and Scala, who's coming out of one of the top universities with a CS degree, who also has a master's degree, who's also fluent in Japanese, and I don't know, works in a fintech company, right? And now all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, there's 7 people. Okay, cool. I want to know, hey, what's holding this search up from delivering me an optimal number of results? For me and the way I work, an optimal number of results is between like 100 and 150 results. More than 150, too many to go through. Less than like 50 or 100, it's probably a little bit too narrow, and we're not going to yield the responses that we want, the number of responses we want to make the placement. So when I go into a search, when I'm initially searching, I'm still kind of doing research. I'm still putting together a search that says, hey, here's exactly what the client wants, all the requirements, all the pluses, literally any and everything to make a quote unquote dream candidate. Great. Now, what of these things is causing it to have 0 or very low search result numbers? So we're going to work off of this example. This is a live example. I'm not going to share the client name because this is literally a real role that we worked on last year. So it's a director of policy and market development. They were very specific about the states people can work in. Check this out, guys. Must-have skills. Ready? Federal and regional policy development. They need a diverse candidate for this, which is Black, Latinx, or female. They have to be working on policy or regulatory initiatives in underserved communities. They need to be in the renewable energy space. And when I got this intake form, French was a must-have. Also, they need a BS in policy or renewable, and they really, really wanted a master's degree. So I said, cool. That sounds great. Let's find a diverse candidate who also speaks French, works in this exact area, who lives in one of these 26 states, who has a BS in one of these very specific areas you want. So while I'm on the call with this VP, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is bullshit. There's 0 way. Like, there's 0 chance. But I did not have any proof to validate that point. So what did I do? I went back and said, hey, what can we look for here that's going to work? And they said, hey, oh, sorry, not female, literally Black or Hispanic. Awesome. Okay. So broke it down. Here's where we're at. This is exactly what you want. And the manager goes, yeah, this is what I want. And I said, just to be clear, you want a Black or Hispanic person who's also fluent in French, who comes from an energy renewables policy background. And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay. If you look for Hispanic or Black Americans who are fluent in French who do anything, that number is fairly low. So I said, okay, like, whatever, let's go run this search and let's see what happens. Literally laughing on the inside because I'm like, this is so stupid. But sure. This is what the Boolean looked like that I had to write for this stupid job. You don't have to understand what the hell you're looking at right here. This is my own search. But Aristotle always says, let's do that thing. So let me actually share with you guys what I did. If you guys ever watched this exact news segment, he's swearing. It's really funny. He does this live too. Okay, so here we go. Sourcing example. Let's jump into this live. So this is, I'll make this a little bigger for everybody. Okay, so this is the role exactly like I shared with you guys, right? You guys saw this on your thing. Here was the search that I ran so that I could find people who matched for what they were looking for. So ready for this? We're literally going to do this right now. Again, I use Seek Out. You can do this on the Blue Devil. I hate them and their platform's not as good as this platform is. Cool. And here's the fun one. Ready? What do we need? We need somebody who speaks French and is Black or Hispanic. So ready? We're going to do this and watch how many people this eliminates. We're going to do, we'll start with just Black first, and we'll do languages, French. Oh, look, 22 people. We're not done though. 7 years of experience, and I need a master's degree. Great. So this looks good. So let's go 7. Okay. Love that for us. And let's find education and do a master's degree. Okay, so how many people do we have now? 15 total in the entire country. This is without going through any of them. This is just 15 people. Like, okay, great. So now let's change that out and let's look for Hispanic instead of Black. Okay, so in the nation, just on the surface area of running this search, you're looking at 38 people. That's not 38 people who can do the job. That's 38 people who even match on paper the thing we're looking for. So the first question I ask is like, hey, what do you guys think the holdup is? If you're looking at this, what's the holdup? What's causing it? This is not a rhetorical question. What's the holdup? What's stopping? What's limiting us and only giving us 38 results?
Black and Hispanic.
Black and Hispanic. Anybody with any other different thoughts?
Maybe Masters.
Maybe Masters, yeah.
The French.
Yeah, the French, right, yeah. Here's the thing. Do you guys know that?
The gas.
Right. So how are we actually delivering this data to a client? Because, like, again, my initial reaction was, this is bullshit. You have no idea what you're talking about. I can't say that to a client in those words. And so what do I want to do? I know I've got bottlenecks. Well, great. I want to remove one bottleneck at a time and then add it back in. So ready? Easy one. Let's remove the masters. Okay, that upped it 4 whole people. Probably not the master's degree. Add it back in. You add that back in. Okay, great. Is it the diversity, equity, and inclusion part of the search? I don't know. Let's find out. Ready? Boom. 271. So that's actually a ton of people now who are coming back, potentially even more than we were looking for. Okay, great. So the Hispanic and Black is definitely a holdup. Downside, it's a must-have. They will not hire anybody who's not DEI. So, like, great. I've got the data to say, hey, FYI, that's severely limiting your candidate pool, but that's a must-have for you. No problem. Let's add it back in. Okay, great. So we eliminated master's degree. What about French? Is French holding this up a whole bunch? No, it's not. It went from 23 to 57. How in the world? Okay, right. That was really surprising. My initial reaction was like, French is stupid. There's no way that that's gonna we're gonna get people. But it wound up that French actually wasn't the limiting factor here. What wound up being the limiting factor? Ready? I literally write all this down. All requirements, removing French, removing DEI, right? Boom. Removing masters, removing specific degrees. And it was actually the combination of a master's and French that got us to a great number. Or removing the masters and the specific degrees got us to right around 100. Removing all of them got us to too many. And so what we were able to do is come back to the hiring manager and be like, hey, here's the data. I'm not telling you your candidate's not out there. I'm telling you, are you open to removing DEI? Because we're immediately going to like 10x our pool. No, I'm not willing to do that. Okay, great. Here are the other areas that we have. We have the master's degree. We've got the specific degrees you want, right? Policy, renewable energy, environmental science, et cetera, et cetera. And we've got French. Are you open to someone who has a bachelor's in these specific areas and maybe doesn't speak French? And after going back and forth with all of this data, he eventually acquiesced and made a master's and French a plus. So now I'm coming to the table saying, hey, I get what you want. We all want what we want. I want an astronaut to fix my toilet when it breaks. I'm probably going to call a plumber, right? So here's why we want to remove these specific roadblocks. So then, boom, 139 people. That's a solid search. I can get through that in an hour and then start messaging people. So finally, after going back, I still kind of thought, like, there's no way. This is a ridiculous search that we're going to look for. But whatever, it's a client, right? As a result of doing that, I'm going to open up this again. Here's what I wound up doing, right? In summary, removed one at a time, all of the pluses first. I looked at how many people it added and found the largest gaps. Also, while I'm doing this, guys, I'm not wasting my efforts. I'm adding each of the variations to a project on their own. So when the hiring manager says, yeah, this one, I just go back and open that project and boom, grab all those people. So what were the results of this thing? Wound up sourcing 192 people in total, like that came back in the search period. We delivered 38 to the client. That is wildly low. And we said, hey, if you're not willing to budge on like DEI or any of these other pieces, like the specific degrees, that's it, man. Like 38's the most I could do. And he goes, that's great. I was like, that's not great. I was like, you want me to message 38 people total and you think you're going to get a hire out of this for this role? Well, of the 38, 17 of them responded. It's a 44% response rate because it was so specific. Of the 17, 7 of them wanted to get into a phone screen and have a conversation with the hiring manager. They wound up having 2 people go to the final round and they had to make a choice of who they made an offer to. And they wound up making an offer and got it accepted, which normally I'd be really happy about. But in this case, I really wanted it to be an example to this person of how they need to be less specific in what they're looking for. And that kind of backfired because I was ready to be like, okay, see, that doesn't work. And he said, see, it worked. It's like, fuck. So he's been a pleasure. But guys, the point on all this is when you start really focused, you expand out, and you're expanding out now with data, right? Pull one thing out, note it, add it back in, pull another thing out, note it, add it back in, and start pulling combos and note it. You're now operating from a place of data. So you can come to your client. You're adding more value than any other recruiting agency is going to add. But you're telling your client very directly, like, hey, here's the exact data that you're looking for what you're looking for, and where your holdups are based on your requirements. Great. You're then going to have really focused outreach and get higher response rates and higher interest rates. We'll come back to all of my information. I did want to share with you the data around this. So if anybody was going, that seems like bullshit, here's the actual, ready? Director of policy. This is the exact role. I literally messaged 38 people, 79% open rate, 48%, I guess one more person responded, 48% reply rate for this. Here's my steps. Boom. Hope things are going well, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty straightforward. Boom. It's 5 messages. It's nothing crazy. I'm not like reinventing the wheel, but I am telling you this methodology works. You're going to get higher results coming back to you. Samantha, the seek out filters look great. Is it expensive? It's less expensive than LinkedIn Recruiter. It's got a CRM built into it. Finds email addresses and phone numbers. Also, it's not LinkedIn. Cool. All right, I'm going to pause. We have 10 minutes for questions. I also have time that I can show you guys all those cool Chrome extensions I mentioned in the beginning, or any other platforms that you'd like to see, or I'm happy to go over any of the Boolean and search stuff with you. I will leave it up to you guys. No, it's not that expensive. Nothing.
Should we go to a gallery view now so we can see everyone? And do you want to stop sharing so we can see everyone? Thank you.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you. That was wonderful. Talk to me about. I haven't heard of Seek Out in the UK. Is anyone using that, folks? That are on this, you're all muted, so don't be shy. But is it a product that's specifically for US and Canada?
No, it's global.
Cool.
It's global. Is anybody here actually using it?
I'm not. I've heard of it though. I heard it's about 500 quid a month, isn't it?
I don't even know what quit is in the US, so I'm gonna go like, sure.
You've got to Google it.
Yeah, $800, something like that.
That sounds expensive. Hang on. I'm literally looking up. Seek Out. Oh, guys, they literally just released special pricing for small recruiting agencies like 5 days ago.
Okay.
So way less than that. But I will show you why I like it, and then you guys can tell me that's stupid or that's amazing. Either's fine. Cool. All right. So imagine LinkedIn, but like good. Somebody give me a role And don't make it fucking weird one like Samantha. No offense, Sam. Your roles are weird.
Health and safety manager, construction, London, 10 years experience.
Health and safety manager.
Construction,
Maybe I should have
London.
muted Simon. Okay, cool. So great. So a couple things that you can do here. They've got all the filters on the left side. It's like, again, like LinkedIn, but way more filters, right? So I can come down and type in my title if I want to, right? I can go health and safety, blah, blah, blah. Cool, right? I'm not going to do that. But it's got that same general search experience, but it has way more fields, right? It has your diversity fields.
Yeah.
You can narrow in much more specifically. You can search specifically in certifications or projects, skills, groups, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Great, cool. A big thing that it has, let me actually switch to Europe. A big thing it has is these, what's called power filters. I'm obsessed with these. So you can find people who are STEM grads, you can find people who top CS schools, Y Combinator backed companies, healthcare backgrounds. For anybody who does tech, anybody? Yeah, Richard, I knew you were my dude. Cool. So imagine being able to just look for like back-end engineers or people with AWS experience, or like, hey, I need somebody with just strong ML or big data. I need .NET or full stack. You can just click these and it's auto going to search for all of them for you. It does the same thing for engineering roles. It does the same thing for corporate roles, like any of the corporate roles you can think of. And here's a big one, boom, list of companies. So Fortune 500, recent acquisitions, veteran employers. What about somebody who like currently or previously worked at an early stage startup or mid-stage startup? Boom, real easy to find, right? We don't want somebody coming out of a giant bank. We want someone who's used to a smaller sized company. Different tech companies, healthcare companies, finance consulting companies, engineering, HR marketing, mergers, et cetera, right? So super, super in depth on that. They also have people insights, which I'll show you once I start running a search, that is really helpful for just looking at like cross section of your search and what's out there.
And Mike, sorry, hello.
Hey, bud.
Is it just pulling data from the from LinkedIn for that, or is it using multiple different sources, GitHub and things like that as well? So I know you don't work for Seek Help, but you do seem pretty across it.
Yeah. So it's pulling from here.
Right. Okay. Oh, nice.
And can you message directly from the platform?
I don't know if you caught that question, Mike, as to whether you could.
He's showing us.
He's showing us.
Oh, okay.
Come on, keep up, James.
Sorry, I was looking at Mike's face rather than looking at the screen on the other side.
Oh, James, you're
I know.
I know it's very distracting, Mike.
People get sucked into that because he's Batman.
I get it. I get it.
Mike,
I mean,
Mike.
it doesn't happen often, so I'll take it when it happens. I'll take what I can get. Yeah, so it does. It has like email automation right into the tool. So when you find a candidate, you can just go add to campaign, and then boom, they start getting emails.
But you use Sourcewell instead.
Yeah,
I do use Sourcewell instead because so here's a list of my sourcing platforms that I use. So because I use, I don't want to say all of them, but like almost all of them, I have to have an agnostic messaging tool that isn't built into a sourcing tool. So I can aggregate all of the data into a spreadsheet and then load it from the spreadsheet into a messaging tool. I also, Sourcewell has some cool functionality that other tools don't have.
Yeah, it's good.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you're already like, wow, that's so cool, that's actually not the coolest part yet. The coolest part is this. And if you think Boolean is stupid, just turn on a cat video for a second. Okay. So any of the filters or fields that you have, you can Boolean search through. And if you're thinking, who the hell cares? Here's why that's important. Okay. Most sourcing, particularly on LinkedIn, is super linear. So you're going, hey, current or past title is this, current company is this, keywords are this. But there are ways that you would uncover candidates based on combinations of those, right? So like current title is health and safety manager, or current title is manager or supervisor, and past title is health and safety. So in order to run that, you're running now multiple separate searches on LinkedIn. There are ways to do all of that within Seekout in one search. So what you can say to yourself as a recruiter, as a sourcer, is what are the ways that I could search for this person that will guarantee that the right people are showing up? Because not everybody currently calls themselves that thing. Not everybody currently says XYZ in their summary or in their position description or whatever it is. So it enables you to use your filters in conjunction with one another. The other, and this is literally worth every penny you pay, this right here. This one phrase, positions description. And let me show you why. Okay, so if you're looking at somebody's profile, how many of you guys are searching in the skills section of the profile?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, ready? Stop it. Let me show you why. The skills, do you know who provides the skills on a profile? You do. Yeah. When's the last time y'all updated your skills section on your LinkedIn profile? Like, when's the last time you looked at them and said, oh shit, I haven't done that in a decade? 0 times ever? Cool. We live on LinkedIn more than any other profession on the face of the earth, and we don't do it. So here's my ringing example as to why to stop searching in skills. Ready? Watch this. Adding skills to my LinkedIn profile is a skill of mine, followed by I'm adding skills to my profile. This doesn't mean I really do this thing, but I do. I'm doing it right now, which I've been endorsed for 10 times, by the way. I have software engineer in here. I'm not a software engineer. I have Java in here. I don't write Java. So this is all bullshit. Also, most people put skills in when they first make their profile, which is when they graduate from college. So for anybody looking for software engineers, it'll always say Java. Computer Science 201 is Java. So where's the best place on a profile to look to validate that someone actually does a thing? It's in here. This candidate, me in this example, is saying at this company with this title, I did these things. So what if there was a way to only search these areas? That is this. That is worth every penny that I pay for this platform. You can also search in the summary or in their headline or whatever, but like the ability to search and say, hey, I don't want someone who lists this thing in a list of 150 skills. I want someone who says they do this thing in their current job. So I would write that search as like current title, health and safety, et cetera, right? Health and safety, you know, and manage. Boom. And now I'm able to start using fairly deeper Boolean skills, which if you don't have, we can talk about a training for that, but like it's going to enable me again to look at less profiles and more focused. And I use my people insights here and see, hey, where are they located? Where's their current companies? And what are their current titles? And I can go through and just eliminate titles. Again, my goal is to spend as much time up front so I don't have to spend a lot of time looking at shit profiles for the job. Last things I'm going to share, I told you I was going to go over. Last things I'm going to share are the Chrome extensions, which are, I think, wildly helpful. So first one is this one called Text Blaze that I mentioned to you. You can use this on any site. It doesn't have to be Google Docs. It can be LinkedIn, it can be Gmail, etc. You literally hit a / and I can go like this, boom, and it auto replaces with my calendar link. I can go boom, boom, and it auto replaces with a snippet. And auto types in. So it just saves me a shit ton of time of having to, no problem, Pamela, I'll miss you so much, of having to type the same things over and over and over again. Multi-highlight, this is the one. Guys, if you take one thing away from this presentation, besides whatever it is that you're watching, get multi-highlight, it's free. So what if you're looking for stuff and you're like looking for already, oh, here you go, Richard, a full stack software engineer, ideally React Native, right? Check it out. Any one of these words is going to highlight blue. Golang, it's going to highlight purple. mobile in any one of these words is going to highlight pink, Postgres or PostgreSQL, green, and React Native, et cetera, is going to be yellow. So now this is on any website. Yes, it works on LinkedIn. I can do React Native developer. Let's maybe turn it on first. Boom. React Native developer. And let's start going through this. Check it out. Refresh. Look, React Native. Oh, look, mobile application developer. Great. React Native. Cool. Let's open this. Great. Oh, look, iOS and Android, React Native. So all of them highlight in the colors. So I know exactly where to look on this profile. I don't have to waste time going down and going through. Multi-highlight is far and away one of the best time-saving tools. And then the last one I can show you guys, because, well, there's two. Remember that one with all the tabs that everybody has open? Because inevitably everybody has like a bajillion tabs that by the end of the day, it starts looking like this up at the top. Is this familiar to everybody?
Yep.
Yeah. This is like wild. Okay, ready? Watch this. One tab right here. I can say, hey, everybody to the right, I'm going to send to one tab. All those LinkedIn profiles, I'm going to do send tabs on the right to one tab. Boop. Or not. There it is. One tab. Check it out. Here's all of those tabs. So you can come back later and be like, hey, I want to restore all these tabs. Boom. They're all here. Great. Or you can do this, and then I can share them with people. I say, hey, guys, do you want to know all these tabs that are open? No problem. I can take this and put it right in here, and you guys can go to all of those links. Super, super useful. And then the very last is the web scraping, which I think is probably worth checking out. So you want health and safety. So top health and safety firms in UK. Let's check it out. Okay. This is a weird example, but okay, cool. So what do we do when we want to look at all these health and safety companies? So we found this list, right? Look at all these companies. These would be great companies to poach people from. What are we doing with this? If your answer is literally that you're going to do this right now, I'm going to vomit. Ready? Copy.
They're all solicitors.
If that's what you're doing, I'm out. Right? Instant data scraper. Ready? Try another table. Okay, cool. So there's the top 5 right there. And oh, look, there's a list of all the companies that were just listed there. There's a list of the companies that it's even cleaner. So what this does is scrapes the page and can pull things out right into a spreadsheet. Oh, here's going to be a great one. Look at all that. Boom. Next. Ready? It's great. Cool. Oh, look, here's all the names of all those companies. Just like that. I'm done. I don't need to do anything else. Copy. Paste. There it is. I'm done. And now if you're like, well, what the hell do I do with that? Man, it'd be awesome if somebody had created a spreadsheet, there's a hint as to who it is, that you could just plug all those into, and it would make a Boolean string for you. What? That's so cool. I wonder who could have done that. So ready? Here you go. Wayne, te.ch / Boolean builder. There you go. Now you guys all have access to the same thing. So that is instant data scraper. You can literally go to a website that has lists of things, hit instant data. This is a shit website. Hit instant data scraper, and it'll pull those things off the website for you into something like this. You can get crazy and find the next button and have it cycle through multiple pages, but just to show you guys why I use this, isn't it awesome if you can find a list of 50 companies that are competitors that you want to go after? Great. Hit instant data scraper, nail it, come here, paste it here, and then turn it into a search string. So all the gentlemen on the call, please pay attention, gentlemen on the call. What you're going to see in yellow here are the instructions. These are the directions on how to use this sheet. So before you use this, please read the instructions on how to use it. For everybody else on the call, thank you for reading the instructions. That was a joke that men don't read instructions, but also it's true. So I shared that. You guys have access to this. Use it to your heart's content. I think that's it. I'm only 7 minutes over, which I'm actually pretty proud of. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, feedback? I'm open to basically all of it.
That's good.
Cool.
I had one, sorry. Hi, I'm Portia. Hi, thank you, Mike. That was so helpful. I feel like my mind's slightly blown a little bit,
Thanks.
which is great. But I just also wanted, I know you mentioned about kind of a more in-depth Boolean search tips and hints and things like that, and just wondered if you have got anything to kind of point me in that direction, because I'm not a massive fan. It blows my mind. I'm always getting it wrong. I'm not good with letters, and yeah, any help would be greatly appreciated on a more in-depth Boolean.
Yep. So there's two options there. One is I just shared the sheet with you that literally has every command, what it does, an example, and what the result will be, and then the different techniques behind it. I think there's also, if this is right, Boolean examples. I'll find out what it is. There's links in the thing, but on my YouTube channel, I also have somewhere on here, mostly videos of my wife singing because she was on Broadway and she's very impressive. But behind that, I've got Boolean Workshop.
Oh, perfect.
So you can check this out. Boop, 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 boop. Feel free to check that out. As well, I hate promoting from stage, which is why, like, if any of you are like, what the hell does he do for work? I'm not an agency recruiter anymore. So I actually build lists for companies and do email outreach. So I've started working with recruiting agencies. Sam is one of the first I've worked with. That was a good while ago now, Sam. When was the last time you were here? That was like 9 months ago. So I build lists for organizations and find contact info, do all the email outreach, and then I also do training for organizations on any of the stuff that you've seen covered here, from searching to messaging to technology.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank
I figured
you so
at least
much.
I should share so we don't get off and people are like, what does he search for? What else, Portia?
Oh, I don't know, still digesting. I think I'm just going to spend a lot of time on your YouTube channel and probably have some more questions after. But all of those kind of Chrome add-ons and bits like that, I think where had been working in the same agency for such a long time, and you stick to what.
Stay on a recorded thing. Okay. No. Stop the recording. I can't show this recorded. Sorry. Can you just restop that for me? Simon. Sorry. There's a reason. Once the recording is stopped again.
Stop the recording.
I think he's saying, no, screw you, Mike. Stop recording.
It's fine.